Well, Singapore is even smaller than Malaysia. But we are in the process of defining and selecting our 5G system and the equipment. It may be more than one set, but we haven't decided. We haven't settled either in the network configuration or what the equipment is going to be, who the suppliers are. We are studying this carefully. We are consulting with industry, we're consulting with friendly regulators, and we will make these decisions in due course. But what is at stake in this 5G discussion? And it is to have a secure telecommunications network. Telecom systems are very complex, and especially 5G is an order of magnitude more complex than 4G. And we want a resilient telecom system because it's a backbone of the economy. And we want a secure telecom system because you want to have confidence that it will work for you and it's not leaking on you. But there are many other considerations as well, because you need to look at performance, you need to look at costs, you need to look at reliability, growth potential, vendor diversity. So there are many considerations in choosing a telecom system, including a 5G system. I would also say, from the technical point of view, it's quite unrealistic to expect 100% security from any telecom system you buy. Even the handphone you buy is not 100% secure, much less the entire telephone network. And it doesn't matter whom you buy it from. It can be a friendly country, it can be a hostile country, you can design it yourself. Every system will have vulnerabilities. Some may be innocently there, some may be deliberately there, some may be discovered later, only by chance. But every system will have its vulnerabilities, and they are bound to be discovered and exploited by all kinds of black hats, sooner or later. And this is a fact. And therefore, when we are talking about telecom security, we have to understand it's not 0-1, black-white. You are talking about risks, you are talking about degrees, you are talking about the trade-offs of different systems and vendors. It's one safer than the other, one less safe, some advantages, some disadvantages. You also have to think, what are you going to use the system for? What are the use cases? For some use cases, it will be very sensitive. My intelligence networks, I absolutely do not want anybody listening in. And then I may need to run a totally dedicated network. I may decide to have somebody carry a bag and with guards to deliver the message because I don't want an online signature. But there will be other networks which will be less sensitive, and then our risk tolerance can be greater. So the technical aspect you have to understand is not absolute. It's very important, but it has to be evaluated against other things. But beyond the technical aspect, there's also the question of trust. And that is the more fundamental issue. Because if I don't trust the vendor, then I can inspect his software, I can test his system, I may find no bugs there, and I still cannot be sure. Because there may be no bugs there today, it may be very well hidden or it may not exist, but with every update which comes, something changes, and how do I know where I will stand down the road during the contract? So I need to have trust in order to use the system. And if I suspect that you will abuse my trust to compromise my systems, I will not be able to do business with you. So that is a very serious problem. And I think that is a problem when you are buying a system and you're buying it from another country and you have to take into consideration the state of your relations with that country and not just the technical aspects. Of course, the trouble with this is that when you go down this road, you end up with very grave consequences. Because if I don't trust your system, you are not going to trust my system. And then the chips, and then the software, and then the firmware, and then the whole supply chain. And then you are in your world, I'm in my world. And that is fundamentally a different kind of world from the one which we have been building over the last 30 years, since the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Soviets did that. They had their own systems, they had their own aeroplanes, they had their own computers. There were IBM computers in America. The Soviets had something looking remarkably similar. The French and British built the Concorde. The Soviets made their own thing. They call it the Concordsky because it looked just like the Concorde, but it was theirs and their supply chain. On one side, you had Boeings, and in those days, not yet, well, and maybe some Airbus. The Soviets had Ilyushins and their own aeroplanes, Tupolev. And it's a completely different world. I think it's an unhappier world. It's a less safe world. It's a problem. So I think trust is a very serious problem when you're talking about 5G. And it's a very difficult problem to solve this because on the internet you have anonymity. You can't definitively identify who the bad guys are. Who's the intruder? Do I know who he is? I can suspect. Can I prove who he is? I can't. Therefore, with this cloak of anonymity, the incentive for players, whether state players or non-state players, to behave themselves is considerably diminished. You won't be found out, you can't be caught red-handed. Therefore, what is to stop you, what is to stop me from doing what I want to do, which is really not a good thing? And if you look around the room, everybody denies doing this. And yet, if you look around the room, everybody says, I have a very serious problem with cybersecurity, with intrusions. Who are these people? Well, if you study it, they'll say there are multiple actors, and including state-sponsored actors. Which states, which sponsors, I don't know. But there are a lot of them there, and none of us have said that we are them. So, that's a problem. Then everybody has his own suspicions. Everybody acts on his own suspicions. And then even innocent companies, innocent players get caught up. And I can't afford to trust you. I don't know. You can't prove your innocence. I can't prove your guilt. And so in the end, it's what the economists in their rather bland jargon call a market failure. I should do the business. There is an opportunity to trust one another, but it's failed. And so that is where you are with 5G. In the long term, you need to establish rules. We have to find some ways. We can pin responsibility. We can name and shame. And then there's some restraint. Okay, I won't do this, you won't do this, because everybody will know if I do it, and it will damage my reputation. But that will take time. For the immediate decisions on the 5G systems, I think each country will have to weigh the options, the uncertainties, and will have to make its own choice.